RadioZero.
Radio Zero, Thursday, August 29th, 5:01 p.m., 2024. Thank you for listening.
We're live streaming on a Thursday, so I think we've been inconsistent for the past
Very
few episodes.
inconsistent, yeah.
We live stream on Facebook, on the Radio Zero page, and on the Poster Children page, on Twitch at PCJCUSA, and on the Poster Children YouTube channel. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can go to radiozero.us. Got the archives there. You can patronize us at patreon.com/radiozero.
You look like you're getting ready to play the music.
Nope.
This is always very surprising when we get more Patreons. Thank you, or patrons. Thank you very much for doing that. That makes me think I should probably I've got some podcasts that I should be patronizing too.
Yeah.
Which ones do you subscribe to, or do you patronize?
The 500 songs.
Where are we on that one?
What song are we on?
That.
I think it's 172, but he's been doing them in parts now. He's found,
it's the secret to he's found the Marvel secret and all of the to break it up into three, like Dune. You got to have Dune Part 1 and Dune Part 2 and stuff like that.
Well, you'd say it was already that because he was breaking it up into 500 separate songs, and it was going to be 50 episodes over 10 years, and I think it's been 5 years, and he's at 172, so it's not working. But that timeline. But yeah, now he's breaking it into. Yeah, so I think. What is it right now? Is it still the Rolling Stones?
Which song? He's only going to pick one song from the Rolling Stones.
Well, he's done other ones,
and he pulls it apart. He starts does he even start with the song, or does he start does he do a Rachel Maddow start where it's back in 1942, there was a Cheeto factory that burned down.
Well, as things have moved into the late 60s, mid to late 60s, yeah, and now more album-oriented, and it's less about a specific song, right? And he always goes off. But, for instance, the Velvet Underground episode, I'm assuming it's the first one that was from a year or two ago. It had a good hour talking about, John Cage and... he wasn't even
music. On the record.
No. Yeah. It was
back in.
Yeah.
19, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. He worked through a whole bunch of stuff before he even started talking about Lou Reed. And so it's different now, and so I can't even remember. I listened to the most recent episode. It was the second half of something, but I've already forgotten.
It's engaging to listen to. Do you listen to every word? Do you have to rewind it every 10 minutes? I have to rewind the ones that I listen to every 10 minutes?
No, if I'm not paying attention. So there's, in fact, I'm not a patron of this. It's somebody, Stanford guy, he talks about communication or something. And that one, I was listening to an episode today, and it was actually somebody talking about something, and I don't even remember what it was. Something that I thought, this is interesting. It's using AI, I think AI in communication, right? How that impacts and total, it just goes in one ear and out the other. I'm just
But you
if
feel
I'm
you're
gardening or brushing my teeth or whatever. It's just the words just happen, and I don't think I've actually gotten. I need to stop.
You haven't retained anything?
Yeah,
from
I think
I
just
probably
need
have.
to unsubscribe to it, because it's kind of this is just, it's kind of like ear candy, or it's not even ear candy. Yeah. It's just something that's, buzzing in the background, and my brain just goes off. Whereas, and so the other one, I'm a jerk. The only two I patronize, the Sound Opinions. I pay for.
That's nice. Do you listen to it?
Yeah. Although my pay subscription is not working on Spotify. And then today I also tried to find a different podcast app to listen to my podcast, because Google Podcasts went away and I was using that. I'm on Android. And
maybe there's an Apple shitty ass podcast app for you to listen to.
There's not.
On your Android. It's so
that's
terrible.
the problem.
I hate it.
So we moved back to Apple Music from Spotify, and for our family account, but Apple Music now is separate, right? So the Apple Music player doesn't play podcasts. And so I tried, I can't, Podcast Addict or something. And I've tried these before. These Android podcast apps they're just ugly and awful. And I was listening to, it was actually a podcast, but a rebroadcast of part of On the Media talking about how Apple just changed its podcast setup. So the automatic downloading, right?
Yeah.
So, and also it talks a lot about how Apple's responsible for, the
right.
success of podcasting, which
I
found weird. But when they talked about it, it was, it's like, they didn't invent podcasting.
We invented podcasting.
We didn't, but the idea of the RSS feed and then
Right.
calling it podcasting, right? It was a reference to Apple. But then when they did integrate it into iTunes, that was a pretty big thing, right? Because before that, it was a lot more involved, to subscribe to podcasts. But making this person was making the point, though, that there isn't a native Android podcast app, and so there are all these others that are just awful. So, anyways, I'm still using Spotify for my podcast.
Wait,
but
so
now
we don't pay for Spotify,
right? So
How does that work?
I have a free. So, and that's the thing, is they're not money. So they don't. I don't think Spotify gets the advertising off of the podcast itself that's embedded, but then their ads,
you get more
that
ads
pop up every time I open up Spotify.
What kind of ads do you get?
Boy, I don't know.
Oh, that's how, Joshua Vaughn says, funny we still call it podcasting even though no one downloads them to an iPod anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently what happened, though, is Apple changed it. So I think that automatic download or whatever, and so that's impacted a huge, since in the past year or so. And that's impacted a huge amount of podcasts, larger podcasting companies or whatever, that advertising. So before, you'd have that auto download, right? And so that would count as downloads, right? Whereas now, since that's disabled, you can turn it on, right? But they did a switch in the software, and it caused a huge economic hit for a lot of advertising dollars for podcasts.
Now all country music podcasts are number one. There's so many more country music podcasts.
SoundScan?
Yeah. It's when they electrolyzed SoundScan, where when they attached it to what was actually being bought instead of just going off of what your local record store person wrote down on SoundScan, all of a sudden they found this should be a lesson to all of us, right? All of a sudden country music, everybody found out country music was being bought a lot more than was written down, right, by record store clerks, because record store clerks we're not listening to as much country, or we're not recording, we're not writing down.
It was all based on record store clerks would call in the sales.
Yeah.
And so they'd fudge it.
Yeah.
They'd say, "Oh no, we're still selling 10 copies of Led Zeppelin 4."
And it turns out that, they're selling huge amounts of country music. So once they connected it straight to what was being bought, then country music became much higher on the charts. And it could be said, maybe then we realized that I'm not equating country music fans with Trumpers, but,
And I'm realizing I should try, and not to shill for another corporation, but I'm going to try. I know Amazon Music has podcasting integrated into it, the free tier, so maybe I'll check that too and see if they're. It's so frustrating.
I just can't tell what's there that I need to listen to. I can't. The user interface is so bad for me that I can't. They just pop up. I don't. Yeah, I don't know
Which
why.
user interface? The one on
It just says podcasting or something.
on
It's
your,
Apple
on iPhone. So
Yeah.
the podcast app. Yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Oh.
So speaking, well,
But it's built in. It's native, right?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. Is that like that's the problem? Is like there's nothing.
Yeah,
like
I don't
want to
use
Android.
Yeah. Oh, that's bad. There's not.
But there are
even
other
some-
apps, but
right,
they're all kind of
right. Yeah.
half-assed. It seems like.
So
Except for- yeah.
I went into a whole like a rabbit hole. Not and the rabbit holes that I go into are very shallow. I let everybody else talk to me. Like everybody else digs around the rabbit hole for me. But like on the
You're
on
like
the,
the
paper,
rabbit hole digging manager. You're like
Yeah.
the rabbit sitting on the edge of the hole, watching everybody
Why
work,
don't
and
you
you tell
dig-
them.
Yeah. Why don't you dig that hole for me there? Thank you. But you had already dug the hole, so it's good. But I'm like I have this notepad of paper that I can start doing my to-do list on it. You know, I'm back to paper. You know how you go back to paper again? You like, oh my God, none of this. I don't want to look at my electronic to-do list. I'm just going to start writing stuff on paper because I'm not getting anything done. And so you always end up going back to paper. And then and paper works really well for me. And then I cross off everything on my to-do list, and then I have to throw it in the recycling. You know, I'm like, oh yeah, I finished all this, and then I like go and I throw it in the recycling, and I feel like an asshole because I killed a tree just to feel good. And then there's all the rest of the notebooks where it's like, oh, what do I do with this? You know, so I've been transferring my notes into capacities. But and then you told me that everybody, like kids around you, have the remarkable.
Well,
and then I was like, fuck.
Yeah. So that was the thing. Is I went to the Senate, and so I think we talked about on the podcast. I went through the tablet or the paper tablet, whatever thing in the fall last fall, right?
So how long did you? And then you returned it. How long did you keep it?
I think probably 7 days. Where it was like, okay, I'm not using this. I don't like it. It was also smaller, but like not a full notepad size.
I saw. Yeah.
And I just went back to my laptop for all things. But and so the paper thing. So what is it? Habanichi Techo. Techo, I think is actually pronounced Techo. I used to call it Teko, right? So there's the Japanese, physical notebook that everybody loves. Right, and it's like, oh, it's Techo season. Like you have to, like they're gonna release the new books for 20. Well, I guess it's not 2025, right? It's the fall, Japanese fall season or whatever, and it's like so everybody's waiting. With
Wait,
bated
do you
breath
have those?
I don't, but it's like, and so I'm seeing the hype. The hype is building up because everybody's going to have to go to like jetpens.com and wait for the order button to convert.
It's like the new Harry Potter book is coming out.
From coming soon to order now before they, and get in there before they sell out. Like the giant Pop-Tart, right? It's the same thing.
Did you see there was a second release of the giant Pop-Tart?
I did see.
Yeah. All right, and you wouldn't let me talk about the giant Pop-Tart.
Oh, that's right.
So why don't you talk about the giant Pop-Tart?
Well, we'll stay on notebooks.
Finish with my rabbit hole that you're digging.
Because we're gonna if we go to yet another tangent, 15 minutes in, we're gonna run out. We're gonna be done in 20 minutes. So yeah, the notebook. So yeah, the paper notebook. But I had a paper notebook or a planner again. I tried it again last year. Not this year.
Paper.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then you gave it. You
up.
tried to give it to me,
Yeah.
and I couldn't even last the day on it. What do you? All right, I have all kinds of questions for you. First was you were in the Senate. How was Senate? It was the first day of Senate.
Fine.
Yeah. And so how did it work? How did it come up that you're the chairperson of the Rules Committee now?
It's the classic. Who wants to do this, and then everybody steps back, and then there's one person standing still in front.
So you wanted to do it. What does it involve?
I was cajoled.
Yeah. So what does it involve? I think that's so cool. I'm so proud of you. I'm really proud of you.
Organizing and scheduling and planning.
Okay. Yeah, that's what you do with your planning notebooks.
Yeah. So, but I do that in capacities, right? So I'm, and that's the thing is I want to have the Japanese planner and writing it every day and do that. But the thing is like even today, I was, sitting eating my breakfast, and it's like the only thing I have is my phone. Right. Mm-hmm. And if it's like, oh, I got to write down stuff. I got to plan stuff. I got to do this, and it's like, oh, I'm going to go digging for my notebook my paper notebook that I've possibly left somewhere, and then I'm gonna have to go all the way downstairs to find it, or I'm gonna have to go all the way upstairs, or no, it's in my briefcase and it's in the basement, and it's like I'm gonna have to go down there to get it, and it's like, oh, but my phone's right here, and I'm just gonna write stuff in, and so it's the desire to have and buy a notebook, and that just love of office supplies, right?
Right.
And so I have I have all these different pens that I buy, and I love these pens, but it's like the reality is that I'm not paper based, and I have my little tiny notebook in my pocket that if I have to take notes,
I've seen you. Yeah. When do you pull out like a little paper? Like every so often you pull something out. You pull out the paper notebook.
Yeah, and that's like in a situation where it's like I can't sit there and write stuff on my phone or my laptop.
Just because people will think that you're... Yeah, okay. So
and that's where so like the Remarkable and the Onyx or the books and the, what's the other, Scribe Note or the Kindle White, paper white, those paper like digital notebooks, they that's the advantage is you can sit there and write in them, and it doesn't look like you're sitting
on your phone.
Yeah.
That's just so
on
weird.
MySpace, on your laptop.
I always joke about that too.
Yeah.
All right. So can you so what happened in the Senate? Did everybody were you actually?
I don't think. Yeah, it's not interesting.
It's interesting to me.
I want to talk more about the notebook stuff and your notebook adventure. So you're using paper notebook or paper like a legal pad, right?
It's right here.
Yeah,
let me show
there you
it to
go.
you. Like
yeah,
I love
it's
it.
not even
I
a
love
legal
it.
pad.
I just write. Yeah. I write all over it.
So that's probably good.
You
probably should just do that.
And then I've got like a highlighter. I'll go through it. I used to never go through my notes again, but now I have to because I'm important. And so, I'm important. And so I go back through my notes and then I copy them into capacities and then lose them forever.
Yeah,
that's I kind of find them. But I have a highlighter for things. And then I actually talk to people about I talk to somebody else about something that I talked to somebody else about. Which is my job now, I think.
Yeah, so it's like processing. Yeah, so you've got a system, and you process your notes. And so that's the thing, is I think maybe there's extra time there, but I think what you're doing is actually the good thing. So if you have the digital notepad, right, and you're writing in, and then that can do like if it's a good one, it'll do OCR, and then you can digitize and then, sync it.
Instead of using this paper thing.
But then you don't have that next step where you go through and review your notes, pull out that information, and then sort of
process it. That has been really useful for me.
Like, so I don't think you should do the other thing. I think you really should stay with the notepad.
Well, I'm going to try. I've actually all the dumb problems of like an iPad, right? We got 150 iPads sitting around, and so I decided I'm going to try an iPad again, because everybody else is using the Remarkable, and that's just dumb. I should be able to use an iPad. There's a Remarkable app apparently that you can use. So I did a little rabbit hole. So I know that if I take that iPad out, I know that the battery's dead. I haven't touched it I haven't touched it in months, and I know the battery's dead.
And that happened when you were and I was like, maybe you should just use the iPad. And then I went and grabbed my iPad and then went to look at what the note-taking app I was playing with.
Yeah.
The one that did the OCR, right?
Yeah.
And then and I tried to turn on my iPad, and it was out of juice.
They die. Like you don't use it, you don't use it, it still dies. It's off and it's dead. What kind of battery? That's probably a battery that's going to kill all of us, right? Because it's going to leak out. It's just leaking. It's not even on. It's not even being used, and it's just leaking. I understand that means the iPad's on in some way, even when it's off.
Yeah,
but still. So then I was like, fuck. Okay, all right. I'm going to have to wait till. I can't buy the gun today. I have to wait till tomorrow. And then I went to school, and then there's another iPad there. So I plugged that in. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go to the local tech store, and, I hear that I can So I talked to somebody who has a Remarkable tablet, and they said, I need to feel the writing of the pencil on the paper. I need to have that. That's how I process stuff. And I was like, that totally makes sense, because this person's a dancer too. Like they live through their, tactile through their body, right? So it's like, that's awesome. And I was like, yeah, me too. I really enjoy the feeling of the paper, and other people do too. So then I was like, okay, well, that's not going to happen to me on an iPad. So I better look into the iPad. And then a tech person told me that there's iPad protectors that you can get so it feels like you're writing on paper. And you probably told me that yesterday. So I looked into that, and those are like $45 for like a pressure sensitive, like I'm like, fuck, I'm not going to get that. And then I saw I saw a video of somebody using one, and I saw like the delay. That would be like when we worked in flight simulators and the pilots were like getting sick because there was this weird minuscule delay that we didn't notice between the controls and the motion base and the sensors and sorry, not the sensors.
I was having a recording delay. I have a box that processes the audio, to room correction.
Oh,
and I thought because it's an external box that there wouldn't be any delay, because when you do that kind of with software, there's a delay.
Yeah.
And so I was using that, and I was messing up all of my recording. Like everything's off rhythmically. I'm like, boy, this just sounds really off, and I can't get everything right. And I'm like trying to fix it on the software side, because I thought the delay was in the, on the software side. And then I realized, oh no, it's the box, and the box is running software. And so there's a little delay in there. It's not purely analog, right? Obviously. And so, those delays are awful. The thing is that the Apple Pen that I was lending you, that I got nibs for that are a little more resistant, right? So
that's not going to scratch the iPad surface?
No, it's the opposite, in fact, because the ones that come with Apple Pen or whatever it's called are harder. And then I got the softer ones that make them feel more like
I haven't
pencil.
So and then the last thing I did today at work was like I've had to go searching around for an old cable so I could plug the iPad at work in, because that I just took out of storage. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going to plug this one in here. I'm going to use it today. And so then the last thing I did was like turn on the iPad. I had the little plug in backwards, so I had to turn it around, halfway through the day because it was wrong. And then I went and I turned it on, and like the word welcome like started scrolling across the screen, and I'm like, fuck, because that it's not set up. You're going to have to set it up. You're going to have to log in with the Apple ID and everything. And I remember that the one here is already logged in for me. So then I was like, oh no, so I put it down. I think I've charged the pencil that you gave me. So so what is the first thing that you do when you test one of these things out?
Well, for me, it was trying to, take notes and then seeing. So I think Apple Notes does this right now. Also, right, you can write. You can write in the with your handwriting, and then it converts it to
OCRs. That's right, it does. Yeah, see, although this is probably an older iPad, probably doesn't have that. Probably can't upgrade to that Apple. Maybe they can.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Mine was it wasn't that old, but yeah.
God. All right. So, that's user interface.
But I think what you're doing is better. The paper, and then
we'll tell that to the tree outside our house.
Well, okay. So let's be honest, though. If you bought something like a Remarkable, you're basically bringing a bunch of toxic metals and batteries into existence. I mean, it's. I think it's even more damaging. Maybe not. I think 100.
And again, where am I going to store all these notebooks?
100 notebooks over the course of your life is going to be less environmental damage than just one computer.
Where
device.
am I going to store all of the paper?
I don't know. You just put them in a box, banker's box.
Yeah, banker's box. Okay. Well, that was my. I'm trying to think if there was anything else too that like it was user interface day, but I can't think of anything else. So the David Foster Wallace Howling Fantods, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where is that from? What is that from?
Well,
no, it's not David Foster Wallace. It's
well, that
Gravity's-
was the thing. Is it
That's
is
right.
in
It's David Foster Wallace. or is
in
it Gravity's-
Howling Fantods is something his mother would say, I believe, who's an English professor, right? And then I said to our neighbor, she said Fantods, and then I said, "Oh, is that a David Foster Wallace thing?" And then that,
Did she hit you?
yeah, no, she went off a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
I'll bet.
She's-
Yeah.
she's
She's
not
from English here
not a
too.
David Foster Wallace fan,
Yeah.
and was like, no, I think it's Shakespeare. I think is where Fantods came from. It was just, yeah.
Oh, somebody. So I think I just like look. I was going to look it up. Because yeah, I was going to. So I typed it into the internet, and it came up on like Reddit r/Thomas Pynchon or r/Gravity's Rainbow or something, and I was like, what? It's a Thomas Pynchon reference, but then I
Oh,
like.
yeah, maybe it is.
No, it's not. I think it's
Oh.
David Foster Wallace.
So the howling part, I think, is the addition. It's the Fantods, though, is just
Having the
is old.
Oh, yeah.
It's an old word.
Is it being like? Is it paranoia?
A state of irritability and tension.
Oh, that's not what I have. I'm
Oh.
just paranoid.
Oh, okay. You didn't say paranoid.
Yeah. No, I said howling. Because I thought it was the heebie-jeebies, but I couldn't remember because you had said it once.
Oh, well, you say spilkies, but what's the?
Yeah. Spilkies is different. Spilkies is when you're like, you are like, that is kind of like what you just talked about. Like you're like, come on, let's go. Let's get it going already. Come on. I got spilkies. I gotta go do something.
I'm trying to think of the word. It's not going to happen.
This is when you have this, like, well, I described it to you and you were like, oh, it's this. So, you have just this utter dread about something that's probably you just don't know if it's going to happen or not to you, and you have no control over it.
Feeling hinky. That's more uncomfortable.
That's when like somebody disrobes in front of you that you don't know. Or, right? Hinky? Feeling hinky?
Yeah, I don't know.
And then there's conjugaled, which our friend Kateri, I don't know if that's just her word. I always love that word. That's like when you're like excited about something, you're conjugaled.
Yeah. Merriam-Webster says hinky is nervous, jittery, or suspicious.
Oh, okay. Well, I can't describe, I just have this foreboding sense of dread that somebody's going to come and yell at me for something that I can't fix. That's what it is. I'm sorry. I'm just gonna put it right out there. It is like something that has two possible outcomes, and I have to choose one, and somebody's not going to like the choice that I make. So that's what I have. And I talked to a good friend today about that, and you know what they said? Like a mentor type person. You know what they said?
Get used to it.
That's kind of what they said. They said, it never goes away. That's what they said. And they whispered it to me. It was a beautiful moment, but I was like, oh, okay, that's good. Thanks. So yeah, so so I'm, yeah, that's just my life now. It's just, I naturally want to make everybody happy. That's what I want to do. Like that's how I function, right? Kind of, except for you. Maybe I don't want to make you happy all that. Like naturally, I want everybody to be happy, but there are some cases where everybody can't be happy, and so
or you trying to make somebody else happy will be in conflict with other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you might try to, I don't know, make somebody happy, and then in the process, I don't know.
Somebody else will get mad that
So
it'll So that's even I'm trying to think of like, can I
so
like
that's not so that should tell you that that's not a I don't think that's a successful method of deciding how to focus your
no, I was told
efforts.
was to go with to do the best, to always do the best thing and do the thing that will allow you to sleep at night. Which I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. I can do that. I'll continue that. But like, I also, we had some, there was an instance, yes, or I don't remember what day it was, but it's like a decision was coming down, and I could have said, yes, let's make this decision, but and not asked anybody else about their opinions, but that decision would be something that really benefited the hell out of, like it was a decision that would benefit me really well. Like it would like our like our team. It would benefit our team. And then I was like, maybe the other team doesn't know about this, or maybe the other maybe it could be detrimental to a different team. I was like thinking. So I realized immediately my mind goes when somebody's going to give me a present, I like immediately think to myself, well, is this present being taken away from anybody else, or is this like a fair, like this is is my getting this present going to hurt anybody else? That's what my mind immediately goes to.
You got a present?
I did. I got a so we all got a present. You know what I mean? But like it's like you must do that too. So you're going to be the chairman of the rules committee now, right? The chair of the rules committee. You're just planning stuff.
So what is that?
Like when you're discussing policy and stuff, and you have to make decisions, and
And so it's going to take away from someone else.
Well, that's the thing is you've got to, when something comes across my desk, I'm like, and it's like, oh, it's great. It's like a big bar of candy or something like that. I always think to myself, oh, like what, this seems too good to be true. Who's going to be hurt by this? That's all. How many calories does this have?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that seems extreme, but yeah, I guess cost benefit analysis balancing.
But it's not. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. But I do that naturally. I think I want to make sure how's this going to affect everybody else? That's all. I'm thinking about sideways. I'm not even just thinking about me. I'm thinking sideways about the whole. Like when I think about our university, I don't just think about us, like our little part. I think about the whole system. Go on. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, like listening to this interview with this guy in Montana, a librarian who built a bot to kind of analyze and decide on local policy. He was running in the primary for a mayoral race. I think maybe it's Missoula. He basically said he was going to be a meat avatar, is what he said, is like if he got elected mayor, he would then sort of run all decisions through this chatbot he built. So not ChatGPT. He open sourced, did an open source thing, and basically going to city council meetings, and then in the mayor, you're supposed to read 400 pages of documents.
He's going to upload it and to chat
statutes and all this kind of stuff. And he has built this chat bot to process, and to do all that and come to a decision on whether or not to vote yes or no to, pass this policy or something like that. And so he was saying and he was saying, well, he wasn't running to win. He was running to kind of show that this is sort of a possibility and probability. And also probably better because if you think of city council people, they're supposed to be go through 400 pages of material before the council meeting, right? And he was like, and they don't. They skim it and everything like that. Whereas you've got this AI, it processes all of that information and then, can be used to make a decision. And so, so it was really interesting because he was in a weird way optimistic, not apocalyptic. He was just saying this is probably going to be a better way to make decisions.
So this makes me think that, and I kind of agree with it too, but at some point this decade, everybody needs to learn how to code because everybody uses computers and you should know what's going on this side. Everybody is going to have to learn how large language models work. Everybody's going to there's got to be some just because I've there's so much hysteria, like, what, you're using an AI? Oh my God, it's gonna steal my artwork, and you're using an AI, how dare you? Why don't you think for yourself and stuff like that? And people just don't even know how these things process. And I took an AI class back in 1986. Like I took the AI class at U of I. And I programmed in Lisp. I programmed in Scheme, which is a form of Lisp. And I know how large language models work. And then I read, I hung out with Rick Powers. And then I watched that talk he had, where they were like discussing which is going to be before AI. Man, I wonder where he is. I wonder, Man, I'd like to have a conversation with him. I know where he is. He's in the Smokies, but I'd love to know what he's thinking. But it was like a conversation on, are we going to brute force like sort of pixel like are the large language models, or is AI going to just kind of brute forcefully figure out answers, or is it going to kind of algorithmically go like it's like the difference between pixels on a landscape and like what are they called, like lines, like vectors. Okay, go on.
So it was a Wyoming mayoral race, by the way. But you're talking about Lisp. God, I wish I could remember. I just heard an interview with someone, and they were talking about programming something in Lisp, and it was not any kind of AI or anything like that. It was like who was it? Oh my gosh, I almost have it. It was something. It was some system that's used, sort of.
Oh, that was was it? We were hanging out with your uncle.
Nope. No.
Okay.
No. It's not that at all. It was some kind of like phone system or some kind of like. Oh gosh.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember.
Well, who do we know who's a programmer?
No, it was not a person we know.
Sorry.
It was an interview with a programmer who had built something, and they talked about how they were Lisp. They loved Lisp, and they built this thing. And I was like, why did they use that to build this thing? And it was so weird. But yeah, it doesn't matter. I can't remember.
There's parts of not Python, but there's parts of JavaScript that I don't know. These like weird pair things that for language processing, and for like parsing, that I don't know, that I wish I knew. You looking it up?
I'm trying to find.
What types of systems can? Sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
Go on.
No. Say what you're.
What types of? I was going to put in ChatGPT. What types of systems could be programmed in Lisp?
It was a very specific thing, but I'm not going to be able to find it.
Well, this is real interesting to everybody, right? Right? I'm looking it up. All right. Let's move on. Okay, wait. Did I see something? Cisco. Jeffrey Davis says Cisco was using Shez Scheme to do stuff for routers. So yes, Scheme is what we were using for routers.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I stand by this, that people need to learn how these. There needs to be some teaching about how this works, probably.
It was the guy who, I feel like it was the guy who made the Apple, the 3-tone boop boop boop, or whatever it is, Apple thing. It was one of the Apple sound, like a guy who designed some of the Apple interface sounds. I think that's who was doing it.
Doing it in Lisp?
Something about Lisp.
I want to program in Lisp.
It was crazy.
See, now I could just go to ChatGPT and tell it that I want to program in Lisp, and then have it. I could teach that in my class. Ooh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to make everybody program something in Lisp. I have like. Anyway, all right. Enough about this. Enough of this. J5 in the dish says, right. It's right. Everybody should learn how large language models work. Okay. Politics. Are we on politics yet? What else was there going to be? There was something. Oh, I got my boobs got released from the radiologist. And I cried. I rang the bell 3 times again, and I said goodbye, and I hugged them, and I said, take care of my friends. Because, everybody, there are going to be other people following me getting breast cancer.
What was that whole chunk? Like, is there a word that describes what we were just talking about? Like when we were talking about Lisp and everything like that? We went from note-taking. I'm just, because I have to write my notes, and I didn't write it, and now I completely cannot remember what we were talking about.
I can't either. Why were we talking
about Lisp?
Yeah, why was I talking about Lisp?
Oh, artificial intelligence.
I guess,
right?
Yeah, just write that. Yeah, Lisp is great for doing code again. CodeGen.
Yeah, boy, it was weird. I'll have to go back and listen to. I think that was the 20,000 Hertz podcast that talks about sound and sound design. It had a couple episodes about Apple, like sound design.
So I was listening to a different podcast about politics because I've listened to all of my politics code generation. Thanks, Jeffrey Davis. Yeah, that would make sense. Wow. Oh God. Yeah. See, that's all kinds of stuff that I don't know that I miss. I walk past my office when I go to the bathroom. The cybersecurity classes are like right across from the bathroom, and so I come out and I like just stand there like with my face pressed against the window, like the other day the guy was showing like an 8-bit, like, had like a word, like two words, and it said next to it, it said and so he was showing how to and two words together, and I was just like, I look like a little puppy dog, like looking in there, and the guy like looked at me, like, because I was in the back of the class, like looking through the window. He like looked at me, and I just like I gave him a thumbs up. Good job, keep going. Might have been that's the class that everybody fails, but I don't think it was. People looked happy. So I mean, all right. So anyway, I was listening to a different podcast, and the people were talking about how they don't like it when our side lies about things that Trump says. Like they'll just like have a story out that says Trump and then colon, because that's what's happening lately, right? We're not going high anymore. We're going low, and this podcast person was like lamenting about that, and I was like, fuck you. I didn't want to hear them say it, but it's something I've said too. Like
But I saw some, like, how there are the Walls joke posts about how he'll change your tire and stuff like that. And there was one that was all about him at a donut shop, and then somebody had posted it, and then it's just like people responding, lies. This is a made up story. Yeah. This is and it's like, no, it's a joke. It's not misinformation.
That's a joke.
It's a joke,
right? It's a meme.
meme joke.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
he
like,
didn't change your tire. He's lying. He didn't change your tire.
I think there is a problem there, but there's also the other side of it, which is like, I'm just joking. When I shoved somebody over in the Arlington Cemetery, it was just a joke. Not that Trump did that, but one of his minions.
That's what they're talking about today. So that's like another thing. Like sometimes they talk about stuff that he did, and I'm like, what? Why are you even talking about that? And now I think that has to keep going though, because like at some point they're going to hit. This is what they were saying on the podcast I was listening to too. It's just like that's what he does. He just throws a bunch of shit at the wall, and something sticks at some point.
Yeah.
Or like 50,000, 60,000, 50 million, 60 million. Who knows? Maybe even people are saying 80 million people are coming over the border to kill you and rape your women.
Yeah. And so I don't think. Yeah, I don't.
And
I don't think anyone in the political process is operating on that level. He's operating on an exponentially larger level of misinformation, or
true.
as opposed to maybe skewing the truth. And then and then you say, people online are. But I mean, I don't think. To me, it's not like, I don't like it when our side misrepresents stuff or spreads lies, and it's like I don't like it on any side. It's like that to me is not constructive, right?
I know, but you can't once you go off the path, then you have no foot to stand on. Like it's and I don't mean to. That's like a. I'm sure there's a actual idiom or whatever it's called, the axiom, not idiom. I'm sure there's a rule there, but like the minute that you lie about something, like you can't be trusted anymore. I think.
Yeah, but again, so what? Well, first off, what you call lying, and then maybe.
So even oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Shit, I keep interrupting you, but like Walls said, I think I talked about this last week too. The thing about these are the types of guns that I carried into war, and it's just like, oh wait, you didn't carry guns. You were 25 years or 24 years in the what was he in, the National Guard for 24 years. But just saying the thing about, I carried this weapon into war, like, why would you say that?
It's just, I don't know. I mean, you could say it was a lie, but it could also be just like, that's what you say.
That's what you carry into war.
The succinct phrase you say, you know,
Right.
as a soldier.
I
right?
know. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like having, but I don't know. I mean, so, but I guess the scale of the lying, and then is the Harris Walz campaign actively spreading misinformation, right? Is this, you know, and are the candidates actively spreading misinformation?
Yeah.
You
They're.
know? And
I
people
mean,
will say yes, they are. I don't know, but I think there's an exponential difference, and you can't just say, oh, there's some gray areas here, and you know, human language and communication is full of gray areas, right? And so, and compare it and say, oh, just because you slipped or you said this, that you're operating on this level, or you're the same as this person who is
you're
pathologically
yeah.
spreading, you know, falsehoods.
Yeah, you're right. It is exponentially. Yeah, yeah. That actually makes me feel better because I really do, like, every time like I see something that's off, I'm like, well, now you know, now we don't have a leg to stand on.
But
you know, but
yeah.
we do, because it's such garbage. So the and why are they continuing to talk about this Arlington thing? But I think if they do continue, they're gonna lose some people. Some people are gonna, like, I remember, like, I'm not into war and I'm not into history, and I remember standing in Arlington National Cemetery. I remember getting briefed like I've never been briefed before we went into Arlington Cemetery. I remember that as a child, as a 7th grader or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, that is a place where there's no politics and stuff. I mean, I remember that.
Yeah, and well, I think the reason why it's still coming up is because the military, right, had a you know, put out a report on what happened, or the incident, that then the person decided not to press charges or continue with it because they were afraid, you know, they didn't want to create an incident, and so the military, the army, right, just issued a little sort of report about what happened, the incident, and then it's closed. And so that's why it came up again, I think, is because they publicized that. But yeah, no, and that's the thing is, so I talk about this a lot, is like when I was a very young child, I was watching the Pet Parade, LaGrange's famous parade of
I love this
animals.
story. Okay.
And
yes.
and I had a hat on, and somebody marched by with a flag, and an old man physically slapped my hat off my head and said, you know, something about respect or something like that. And it's like, I didn't know. I wasn't in Cub Scouts yet, right?
Yeah.
And everything
Yeah.
like that. And that kind of reaction and that idea of respect, right? And him physically, you know, hitting me.
Hitting you.
Yeah.
Great.
And it's not like, oh, you know, you're supposed to take off your hat, you know, in respect to the flag when it goes by and everything like that. And then and so yeah.
That's
and
not the
my
story I
thought,
thought you were going to tell.
Oh yeah, and my thought is that guy, you know, that's also the guy who would be, you know, total Trump head, you know, nowadays, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so these ideas of respect, and yeah, it's kind of like, oh, it's conditional, you know, and it's like, if you want to talk about, you know, our nation and patriotism and all that kind of stuff, and then it's like, and yet you're acting like a buffoon and disrespecting this national cemetery that has lots of rules around it, and you're not supposed to use any kind of photography for political purposes, right? It's like, okay, yeah, you can take a picture here if the family says it's okay, but you can't then just do a campaign, you know, promo shot of you giving the thumbs up next to this gravestone, and then next to this gravestone of somebody else who hasn't given you permission, you know, to do that, and to have a photo taken, and it's like, yeah, that's disrespectful.
And that seems to be coming across my news feed more than the it's possible that Kamala Harris isn't a United States citizen because of Dred Scott. What?
And that, yeah, and so it's some, yeah.
The Republicans are making
Yeah.
making a statement that since she's black, she might not be an American citizen.
And I haven't dug deep into what that is because it just
that's not getting across. The Arlington National Cemetery incident is taking up more space.
Yeah.
But the other thing is that there's maybe going to be a debate. I haven't even been following that either.
So far.
So it's still going to be a debate. How is that going to work? Can we do that debate? Can we like perform that like you be Trump? No, I'll be Trump because I'm a little Trumpier than you are.
Whoa.
Yeah. How is that going to work? And I heard that the Harris campaign doesn't want the microphones shut off.
Yeah, because that was the thing. Is I guess
Yeah.
so. Part of that with the debate with Biden, right? We watched it, right? And it was weird because you'd have Trump muted, and then Biden's kind of like and it's like, and then realizing, oh, there's a megaphone going off behind him.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that because Trump's muted doesn't mean that he's not off over your shoulder going still yelling and
Trump's going
saying,
and then the blah 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 blah, and then now it's Biden's turn, so it gets turned off, and
it's, hey shithead, he could be yelling anything,
So
over there.
Biden's
Grandpa, what Grandpa is just like off in the background.
I'm trying to think of what one of the things that Biden said,
you're a choker. You're a choker, Joe.
No, he's
you're
like-
choking.
This is how the sound ran for that though. It was like, oh, and then another thing that I did. You got to stop it.
He wasn't talking to his microphone.
He may have been, but they had it turned off. It's like it was like the sound was garbled.
Well, yeah, maybe
And I
that,
know
but
it's
I'm talking about just
I
muting,
understand.
right?
Yeah, so
it's
they had the Trump muted. I did it again. Sorry.
No. But it would be like, if I could just, when and you hit the mute button, right?
God damn it! Listen, I can hear. I can't hear myself. Yeah.
But so they want Harris campaign wants him to be live on the mic because they know that
because he'll just go crazy. He'll look like an idiot.
The expectation is that he's not going to be able to control himself.
So why can't he? Why can't he just be like? Why are they arguing? Why is the Trump campaign arguing that they need his microphone shut off? What the hell?
Because that was the original deal.
But why can't they just be like, yeah, okay. It's a power thing, or are they like terrified that he would sound like a raving lunatic? Because he's going to sound like a raving lunatic anyway, but he would sound less like one.
That's
yeah,
the thing
you're
is
right.
he always stays on point for the first minute. It's you just got to give him time, and so that if you let him have an open mic, and that could be a strategy. Harris, one of her strategies, I hope, is to be super mean because she's been like when she was mean to Joe, poor Grandpa Joe in those primary debates in 2020. It was like, ooh, she can get mean, which I like
Like
but,
a nasty lady. She'll be like a nasty
exactly,
lady.
which is basically like just not
being
backing
demure.
off. Not being demure. Exactly.
Like a lady. She'll be mean.
So being
more like
I don't
a
want to
man.
say more like a man, but just
talking like a man, playing like a man.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I hopefully she does that in the but she could also just stop talking, and just let him go, and then that's a strategy too, where it's just like. And then let the moderators say blah blah blah. Former President Trump, you need to stop. Blah, 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 and he just keeps going. And that is what you do, right? So sometimes it's like, oh, the child's having a fit, and what do? Either you yell at the kid and you pick them up and walk them out of the room, or you just let them spin on the floor, right? And sort of burn themselves out. And
this literally happened to me today.
Yeah,
I was the child. Yeah, they just sat there and listened to me. So J is either J5 in the dish. I feel the reason is that she won't be able to call him out.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if it even happens.
Do you think it'll happen?
I have no idea. This is all.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
all
right.
crazy town. It's
All right.
crazy town. Oh, and that was the other thing. Is like, okay, it's crazy town until November, until the election, and
that's what you had a realization.
Yeah,
this
talking
week.
about like 2000. It came up in a dinner conversation, and then what else? Oh, just the stuff about Georgia and the board of electors there. and what's going on with them. And I'm like, oh shit, I forgot. I basically forgot. It's like, this is not going to be over in November. This is going to go on. It's going to go on for months.
Do you think we'll have another January 6th? Like the Trumpers will try to take over?
I'm not even thinking that. I'm just thinking, another 2000, it's just going to be this national nightmare, extended legal craziness. And then, the Supreme Court was in 2000 was
won over.
had just gone over the
Yeah.
had just flipped.
That's
right.
Yeah.
And then it's like where it's at now, it's just like, so maybe it won't be, maybe it will be over sooner.
It'll be over. Yeah, they'll be like, well, we know that Kamala Harris seems to have gotten more votes, but we know that that's a lie, and we're ruling that she's not an American citizen because of her skin color. So it's going to be Trump.
Yeah. So
hallelujah.
That was my realization. Yeah, was just like, oh, this is going to be our national nightmare will not be over in November.
Can he go more than 4 years? Can they change that?
You can always
after he gets elected. Can he change it so that he can?
He can't change it. It would have to be amending the Constitution, so that would require a 2/3. It's like the ERA or something. They'd have to, because they already put in that amendment about term limits on presidents, right? And so that's an amendment, right? Yeah, and so they'd have to do a new constitutional amendment to override that, and that would require 2/3 states' approval, right? Which is possible.
And it would require people reading it.
It would be sad if the ERA couldn't get through, and then extending presidential terms got
through. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, have you watched anything good this week?
I don't think I have. I haven't had any quality time. Oh, I watched the first episode of the 4th season of Only Murders in the Building, which, 4th season, that seems like it'll be bad, but I actually was pretty impressed. I was like, oh my God, this might actually be pretty intense. And what's his name? Steve Martin was acting.
Did it just start?
Yeah.
Okay.
First. Yeah, and they're doing a weekly release. They didn't do a dump. So it might be good. It might be great. I don't know. I was very optimistic. It's packed with so many actors now. The show.
That's kind of fun.
Yeah, so many stars. Yeah. They got Meryl Streep back, so it's just kind of like, and the Meryl Streep season last year was good, but it was, it felt like a 3rd season of a show, right? Whereas this 4th, but they always start out good out of the gate. We'll see what happens.
The Deadpool movie was good. I enjoyed it. It was really good. I'm trying to remember what the jokes were in it.
The younger is going through all the X-Men movies, and so I'll go into the air-conditioned room and sit and watch part of that. And wow, what an insipid load of dookie those
I didn't
movies
watch
are.
It. Yeah, those are probably really
my
bad.
God.
Yeah, I didn't watch them. They're
somebody literally said, "What is it? You're going to wish you killed me," or something. What is the trope, the cliche that people say all the time? You're gonna wish you killed me when you had the chance, right? Mm-hmm. Somebody said it, yelled it, like in all seriousness. I was just like, oh my God, give me a break.
It makes me feel bad for having watched lots of Marvel movies and liking them. Like, could this one actually be like? Is it exponentially worse as we were talking about?
I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
It's
terrifying. It's all garbage to me now.
Yeah. Well, it's. I think I'm trying to think. Yeah. The funny thing is who's the guy who plays Deadpool? Ryan Reynolds.
Reynolds.
Oh, wait, who's the guy who plays the Ken? That's
Ryan Gosling.
Okay, they both have this first name Ryan. I was getting them mixed up in my insomnia last night. So Ryan Reynolds, he just talks and talks and talks. He just runs his mouth off. It's really funny. You know, the way he keeps talking.
Mm-hmm.
It's they have the inside jokes are pretty good. And he said at some point he says he's like yelling at somebody, and you know he's like gonna complain to the management or something like that. And he says I have a black belt in Karen and blah blah blah. He's like, this is just really. I laughed. I thought it was funny. It was funny enough where I wrote it down, but I don't remember the whole movie. Just because my mind is erased by walking into the air-conditioned room and watching whatever part of the X-Men you guys the young one was watching. The young ones was watching. I want you guys to know, anybody who's watching this, we do not have air conditioning, and it was about 97 degrees outside today. The room that we're sitting in.
Hot again?
Yeah, it was really, really hot.
I went outside. It didn't seem as bad as Tuesday.
Yeah,
Didn't
no,
seem
it was.
like
It's when
death temperatures.
Yeah, no, it was pretty. It was. You may have been dressed better this time, but so we're sitting in a room, and the windows are not even open. But tonight it's going to get down to 73 degrees. So we're going to.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, no, that's
a normal nighttime temperature.
Well, it'll be cool. Like
Yeah,
it'll
true.
be cool. Like the air condition or the windows will come through the air will come through the windows, and maybe we'll be able to sleep tonight. But it's
I'm going to look
hot.
at the humidity forecast though. It's not just the.
It's
the
not
heat.
just the heat. And then you can do the thing where it's what's the
the
what
dew
is it?
point.
The feel
75 degrees.
That's dew point 75 is pretty hot. But so it's very hot in here. But you know, how much are you paying for air conditioning? Because we're not. Although we have the little window unit now, but you know, you can think of that like it's probably hundreds of dollars that we're saving.
Probably.
And the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you want, you can just go to work, go sit and work. We could probably sleep there. I think about that.
All right. I think we're done.
Yeah, thanks for listening.